democracy is improving and increasing in Africa. It is happening, and that trend is not going to go backwards. It may feel like it from time to time, but it's not going backwards. Democracy in Africa is improving. Transparency is improving in Africa. Things like conflict, if you measure in different ways, and there are various institutes and societies that measure conflict in Africa, conflict is reducing in Africa. Of course, you read the papers, you'll feel like it's only ever increasing, but factually, conflict is decreasing. And of course, conflict costs society money that should otherwise be spent on connectivity and infrastructure. Ease of doing business is another key for us that has to be in place. And then finally, the economic systems in Africa have to, let's call it, normalize. I would hate to use the word westernize, because there are many different economic systems, but they've got to normalize to where they're more free market orientated with variations around that. And certainly that is something that's happening. So what we're going to see in Africa is we're going to see the rise of megacities. Right now, if you define megacities as cities with more than 10 million people living in them, there are, I think there are around 30 in the world, of which 3 are in Africa. So by the year 2050, we're going to have doubled that. And we're going to have more than 1/6 of the world's mega cities. But not only that, there are a huge number of cities that are smaller towns that are growing into cities. And you really need to track that and understand, because not only do those cities need the infrastructure, but the connectivity between those cities is absolutely important. And when we talk connectivity, it's not just connecting cities, connecting people, it's connecting people with resources, like water is something that's absolutely vital that we've got to connect people with. So infrastructure is all about the connectivity behind it. So the level of infrastructure that's going to be needed in Africa is incredible. We as a company often look at it in terms of cement consumption per capita. Africa is sitting on average at around 175 kgs per person. It's probably going to grow to 500 kgs per person plus. And you put that together with the number of people that are going to be growing as well. For our industry, it's very, very positive. By the way, China peaked at about 1,300 kilograms per person because of them going through that infrastructure growth. And remember, we said in 35 years, we're creating another China. So there's no reason for us that cement demand doesn't go from 175 kilograms per person to 1,000 plus. And cement's only something that's used at the core of projects, but the amount of other goods and services and things that are used in infrastructure, steel, piping, whatever you want, asphalt for roads, bricks, etc. Every time a kg of cement is sold, there's all of those other products that go with it. So that brings you into the whole realm of how do we get the stuff into Africa. Particularly, one thing is around the coast. You ship it there and it's nearby. But once you start going into the interior, and there's no doubt that a lot of this growth won't just happen at the coast, it starts talking to around the need not only for the infrastructure like roads, etc., but the systems, the logistics systems, you crossing borders. So it's the government systems that allow things to cross borders. And the whole systemic view of Africa has to change and has to improve to allow this to be possible.